Now, there's a lot of opinions online today after the news of O.J. Simpson's death was shared. His family announced he died after a short battle with prostate cancer at the age of 76. The former NFL star and broadcaster's athletic achievements brought him fame, but those were eclipsed by his 1995 acquittal in the brutal killings of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman.
200 yards pursuit. He is going to break the record.
O.J. Simpson soared to fame as number 32 for the Buffalo Bills and spent 11 spectacular years with the NFL, leading him to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I didn't mean to steal anything from anybody.
But he also plummeted to infamy as inmate number 1027820 in the Nevada Department of Corrections. In between those highs and lows, Simpson led a life filled with more surreal drama than all of his various films and TV projects combined.
OJ, what can you say about this? Back up, please. Get out of the way.
Mass media experts say Simpson's sensational televised low-speed chase.
People are literally cheering him on as he travels northbound on the 405.
And his subsequent arrest and murder trial.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Stand as the first reality show and perhaps the greatest three-ring television phenomenon ever. In 1994, Simpson was charged with the horrific murders by knife of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman.
Ron and Nicole were butchered.
The trial of the century made lawyers for both the defense and prosecution household names.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Though the jury freed Simpson, he would never recapture his idol status.
Just did you do it?
No, I didn't. Nope.
He lost a multi-million-dollar wrongful death suit brought by the families of his ex-wife and Ron Goldman, then moved to Florida. In 2000, Simpson was accused of assault in a road rage incident in Miami. He was found not guilty. In 2005, he was found guilty and fined for stealing satellite television. Then in 2007, Simpson offered his hypothetical account of the 1994 killings in the book If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer. Shortly after the book was published, Las Vegas police arrested him on several felony charges, including kidnapping and armed robbery. In that case, Simpson and armed accomplices raided a hotel room in what he called an attempt to just get back some of his stolen belongings.
And I didn't know I was doing anything illegal. I thought I was confronting friends and retrieving my property.
The Nevada jury never bought his story and instead sent him to prison. He was released on parole 9 years later in the dead of night with no fanfare, though he did try to reinsert himself back into public life.
Hey, ex-world, is me, yours truly.
Simpson's family has asked for privacy after announcing his death, though reactions to his passing have been mixed, including from former neighbors of Simpson and Nicole.
Good. Not gonna miss him.
It's just kind of a sad, tragic end to his life, which could have been so much more.
And another person who knew him, Caitlyn Jenner, taking to social media today saying, "Good riddance." Simpson leaves behind the distinction of arguably the greatest rise and fall in pop culture history. For more on Simpson's divisive life, we're joined by Professor Stan Goldman, director at Loyola Marymount University's Center for the Study of Law and Genocide. Stan, you covered O.J. Simpson's murder and subsequent civil trial as a legal analyst. How are you reflecting on that time today?
Oh, golly, it was 30 years ago, and it was very unique. I mean, it may have been the most heavily covered trial in American history. And it was the beginnings of not just news coverage of trials like that live broadcast across the country, but it also may have been the beginnings of reality television, because that's the way the public viewed it. They didn't view it so much as a prosecution of justice. They viewed it as entertainment. And it was from gavel to gavel on live TV, on various network newses. It was covered at night for half an hour on every evening on TV. I probably appeared, I'm not exaggerating, because a number of my appearances were then shown later and then in the middle of the night. I probably appeared on TV myself over 2,000 times during the course of the trial. Just because I was a law professor here in downtown Los Angeles, I'd been a public defender for 8 years in that courthouse. I tried murder cases in that very courtroom myself, and people just wanted to talk to me about it.
The case certainly drew eyes, and who could forget the infamous car chase? Definitely one of those where were you when incidents. So why did this case capture the minds of millions around the world? What was the draw here?
O.J. Simpson was an American hero, and he looked to be very self-deprecating, which we used to at least love in our heroes, which was he was a great football player, and then he'd done all those crazy Naked Gun movies where he was always getting, hit by something. So he looked like he was just a wonderful guy, and he was a great symbol of things. And it turned out that had this very, very dark side that some people were never prepared to acknowledge. And of course, you can't unfortunately deny the racial issue. Beautiful blonde-haired woman formerly married to, African-American O.J. Simpson. She's murdered. It hit a nerve in America that I think many, many white people had no idea existed. I think a lot of Americans didn't realize this was kind of, whether it should have been or not, a symbol of American white justice finally getting its comeuppance. I think some people may have thought better of it as the years passed, but I think that was a factor that I think the district attorney's office had no idea when it started the trial it would have to deal with.
Now, after the trial, the debate over O.J.'s guilt or innocence followed him for the rest of his life, and there are people out there today who are happy with the news of his passing. Is that fair?
Well, I shed no tears myself. Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever said this publicly before, but I actually spent about 2 days working on the O.J. Simpson case for the defense team. It was at the very beginning. I was a professor. My specialty at the time was the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures. And the defense team asked me if I could consult with them on this motion that they had, because this silly thing, like this glove with some blood on it, had been found on the property. Who would have thought this would be important? And they were trying to keep it out of evidence. So I spent a couple of days working with them on it, and they ran the motion, and it lost. The prosecution won it. In reality, they lost it, because if they'd kept that glove out, OJ would have never tried it on, and the case might have gone in a different direction. But then they asked me if I'd be interested in working with the team, and I said no. I thought I just actually wasn't. And in fact, when somebody told me how much OJ liked me because he liked my commentary on TV, I must say I was a little depressed about it. And it was an emotional thing. You got to remember, some innocent people, 2 innocent people lost their lives here. It was a serious murder for which, in many ways, I think OJ never paid the price. Although I doubt if he would have served 9 years in a Nevada jail for the crimes he allegedly committed in Nevada had this not dogged him. But still, it was not a correct verdict, in my opinion, but it was not an unforeseen one.
When covering the case in the 90s, did you ever think it would impact society in the way that it has?
I thought it would demystify the courtrooms for so many people, because until then, your image of a trial was Perry Mason. It was L.A. law. It was not the day-to-day operations of the court. You've got to understand how comparatively naive people were at that time in terms of evidence. It was the first trial I had ever witnessed in which DNA evidence had been offered. And the DNA evidence was overwhelming. I don't think anybody today would give it a second thought that it was conclusive in this case. And it was just really quite remarkable, the talents of the defense team and the sheer volume of what they had to say sort of overwhelmed the inexperienced prosecutors. You got to remember, the lead prosecutor in the case, Bill Hodgman, had a heart attack of some sorts early in the trial, and it was left to his less experienced second chair, Marcia Clark, and the massively paid for, big name, highly qualified defense team just sort of overwhelmed them.
It's been so interesting talking with you tonight, Stan. Thank you so much for joining us on Trending Now.
Thanks.